Hey there, Erin Lee here of heavenlymessenger.com, bringing you this week's Connection with Intention. First of all, thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure for me to be able to connect with you in this way, and I'm grateful for the time that you're taking out of your day to be here with me. I know it's a time of year in particular when there's a lot that's going on. The weather's starting to get nicer, so it's truly a gift for me that you are here with me today in this format and in this medium. So I am still not feeling like myself. I'm not 100% sure how long we'll be able to go for this evening, but I do want to make sure that we do the Choose Your Adventure crystal reading, because in doing that, everybody has the opportunity to choose a crystal to represent the question that they have, so that at least everybody walks away with something, even if I don't get to your question. Also, if I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on with being sick, but if we've connected in the last month or so for a reading, I might skip over your question this evening just to give everybody an opportunity and a chance to connect for a reading. I know that when people first come on, they put in their questions, and it means that people who join in a bit later don't have an opportunity to get a reading. So that's my hope and my intention for this evening. You know, it's really interesting. There has been so much going on an energetic level, and I always have so many thoughts throughout the week about things to talk about and to share with you guys. And yet always when I'm sitting here, like, my mind goes to a blank. But in admitting that, I've had something come up in it. We on Sunday with the Oracle Chat show that I do with Bobby with the Universal Connections, we touched on it a little bit, but I want to expand on this topic a little bit more. And it has to do with how we receive messages and how there are different ways to coming to a point in a place where you can receive intuitive messages and guidance and information, and the ways through which messages are delivered. So we've talked a lot in the past about clairvoyance and claircognizance and clairsentience and clairaudience as being the ways that we receive messages and information. So those all mean clear knowing, clear seeing, clear feeling, and clear hearing. But there are other ways, like other pathways that we receive messages and information, all through those same major conduits. So for example, you might have a roadway or a highway, and on that highway, somebody might drive, somebody might walk, somebody might ride a bike, somebody might take public transit. There are lots of different ways that you can use that pathway to connect, to move from point A to point B. And when it comes to receiving intuitive messages and guidance and information, I find that the same is true. For some people, reaching and making those connections, it's a very solemn experience. There's a lot of meditation, there's a lot of internal reflection, and it's very serious, and it comes through in a very languid, beautiful, lyrical way. And then there are other people, when they connect and they receive their messages, where it comes through and it's really, really, really quick. Boom, 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 boom. Like that. Sometimes it has to do with the source that you're channeling messages from. For example, when I connect with angels, I find that the information comes through kind of in between those, because it comes through in a way that I'm easily able to digest it and to recognize it and to understand it. But when I start connecting with deceased loved ones, sometimes the messages and information, they come through like rapid fire. They come through very, very, very quickly. But the point that I actually really wanted to bring across is, although messages can often come through in a really languid, peaceful, almost luxurious and gift-like way, other energies that deliver messages can be very fun and lighthearted and upbeat. And so, depending on how you're wanting to connect, can also depend on where your energy needs to be in order to be able to receive those messages as well. And so for myself, having a personality that is fairly bubbly and uplifted, and humor has always been incredibly important to me. That's also part of how I receive messages and information too. I'm often really surprised by the similes or the metaphors that are used to drive a point home. I shared on the show on Sunday rather, that one of the messages that I had received, the way that it was delivered to me was in comparing an old toilet paper commercial. And in this particular commercial, you had a square of each a no-name brand and a name brand piece of toilet paper, and they sprayed a bit of water on both of them, and then they stacked little tiny weights. And the whole point was to show you how strong the brand name toilet paper was. And that was part of the message. That was how it was being delivered. And so the message didn't come through, oh, like you're really strong and resilient. It came through as toilet paper, friends. So just to encourage you to possibly move outside of the box in terms of how you expect your messages to come through, because there is a lot of emphasis on the idea that it comes through in a really solemn kind of way. But actually, for myself at any rate, more often than not, the messages when they come through in a very lighthearted, playful, almost silly manner. There are lots of different reasons for it, but to pay attention to everything that you get, even if it seems really silly and ridiculous. Awesome. So let's say hello to everybody. I think I saw a couple of people popping on with questions. We're not taking questions just yet. Please hold on to your questions for a moment, and I will invite you to ask them. So hello to Ange. It's always so good to see you. And Carrie, hi. Thanks for joining us. Hello to Penny and to Ashley. It's wonderful to see you guys. Thank you for popping on. And Veronica, thank you. Yes, I am starting to feel better. I'm not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And Kareen, hello. It's wonderful to see you. And Kareen, if you want to ask a specific question once we get to the questions, that would be awesome. One thing that I'll mention, I know that Bobby has been on and she does questions really differently from the way that I do questions. When I do readings in this format, I ask for a specific question. And the reason is I only have a couple of minutes with each person, and I want to give you as much as possible, because when I tap into a person, I get all of this, and I can't give you all of this in a couple of minutes. But if we fine tune it like this, I'm like, yeah, I can go and I can get that answer and I can share that with you. So please ask a specific question. Hello to Marissa and Mike. Thank you for joining us from Manchester, England. It must be really early over there right now. Thanks for popping on this evening. And Ashley, if you want to ask your question in a couple minutes, that'd be awesome. And Jerry, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to be able to get the crystals up for the questions this evening, but I did manage to get it. Oops, hold on. We will take this little banner down. So if you do want to ask a question, now is the time to do it. Please be specific with your question. And if you want me to use a particular card deck for your question, please mention it in the same comment. I don't see them if they're subsequent comments. So the options are, we've got the yellow deck, which is the Archangel Oracle card deck. We have the blue deck, which is the Mermaids and Dolphins. And we have the green deck, which is the messages from your angels. All right. So what we will do is we will choose, we have the opportunity to do a crystal reading. So if you have a question that you would like some guidance on for yourself, what you'll do is take a moment, ground yourself, take a breath, think of your question, and ask which crystal best represents the question that you're asking. What I'll do is I'll pull a card for each of the different crystals. And so in that way, you will receive a reading and a message. So we have on the far left, malachite, rose quartz, and emerald. And unfortunately, the crystals didn't show up really well in the picture that I took today. So my apologies, but we do have malachite, rose quartz, and emerald. And as you guys are thinking about your question, you're welcome to ask more than one question and choose more than one crystal. So while you're doing that, I will pull cards for each of the crystals that we have. So I'm pulling the card now for the rose quartz question. And we have the card for our emerald question. All right. So I'm going to assume everybody's had a chance to choose their crystal for their question. So for everybody who chose malachite, the card that we have here is Archangel Jophiel, and her message is all about clearing your space, clearing your energy. Get rid of clutter, clear your energy around you, and use feng shui. So when this card comes up, it says that there's a lot that is cluttering your space right now. Usually it's referring to the physical space that you're in, but I often find that it can have to do with mental and emotional space as well. So it is definitely helpful to clear out your physical space, to get rid of the things that you're no longer using, that no longer support you, because holding on to a lot of stuff can actually be incredibly stressful. But in addition to that, this card is encouraging you to take a look at what you're holding on to on an emotional level, what you're holding on to on a mental level. And now is a really great time to start seeing if it's time to be letting some of this stuff go. Have you been fighting over the same thing over and over and over again for a long period of time? Then maybe it's time to say, hey, this thing actually isn't worth the amount of time that I've already put into it. I'm going to come to a resolution within myself, and I'm going to move on and I'm going to move forward from it. Archangel Jophiel also helps and supports us in making things beautiful. So whether it is the space that you live in, the space that you work in, the space that you hold in your mind, or the space that you hold in your heart, Archangel Jophiel can help and support us in creating a beautiful space that we can hold ourselves in. So call on Archangel Jophiel, ask her for help and support. And I also just want to say, we don't usually talk too much about the crystals. Here is the malachite crystal that you guys chose from today. Malachite also gets to the heart of matters. Again, we talked a little bit about malachite on the show on Sunday, which is part of the reason that I pulled it today. Malachite is a heart chakra crystal. It's a highly emotional crystal. It's all about love, but it's all about clearing out the junk and helping to prepare you to move forward. So see this as being a place of preparation, particularly if you're feeling stuck in any way or with the question that you've asked. If you chose the rose quartz crystal, the card we have for you this evening is the Dream Big card. This card is from the Mermaids and Dolphins Oracle card deck, and specifically the message is let go of small thoughts about yourself and see yourself succeeding. And as I say that, part of what I'm hearing is if your mind can conceive it, your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. And it feels like this is something you are in a time and a place where you are building yourself up, where you are motivating, and there is the opportunity for shift and change, but not in little ways, but in really big ways. If you are doing any sort of affirmation or manifestation work about the crystal, about the question that you have asked, make sure when you put your statements out and you see yourself, you visualize yourself doing or being or living in whatever way you're trying to create, make sure you always end it with this or something better, because the perspective that we have is very limited. It's very limited in terms of what we see as being potential options or potential opportunities, the things that we could do or the things that we could experience, where universe's perspective is like omniscient. It has a full and complete perspective, where ours is just really tiny like this. So maybe your mind is saying, well, the best that I could possibly hope for is this. And universe is saying, pardon me, and universe is saying, but actually you could have this instead. So if you chose the rose quartz card, crystal rather, make sure that you allow yourself to dream big, to focus on more than what you're wanting. And sometimes people will have a limiting belief even around their dreams. I can only do this much because if I did more than this, then I would be greedy. But, I believe that if we find ourselves in a place where we have more than we need, that we have the opportunity then to give and to support others. So what if you created all of this stuff and you're like, I only need this? Look at how much you have to give to somebody else who could also use a step up. Maybe you helped to create a dream for somebody else. So allow yourself to think and to be as big as you can possibly be. The rose quartz crystal, since we talked about the malachite crystal as well, rose quartz is all about unconditional love for self, unconditional love for others, feeling and accepting unconditional love from universe. Often in our lives, we don't have a lot of experiences where we are loved fully and completely and without condition. And so this card is also asking you and talking to you about opening yourself up to receive that unconditional love and support. Sometimes it's safest than to accept that from people, especially if you've been hurt in the past, to accept that from God, source, universe, angels, whatever your belief system is, but allow yourself to be supported in that way. And then the last card is the Emerald. So if you chose Emerald, your card for this evening is Archangel Uriel. This card is from the Messages from Your Angels Oracle card deck. And Uriel's message is, your emotions are healing, which enables you to open to greater love. I will help you release anger and unforgiveness from your heart and mind. I mean, this card has compassion written all over it. Compassion is something I've talked a lot about over the last couple of years because I think it's such an important thing. Compassion begins with yourself. If you are unable to offer yourself compassion, it's incredibly difficult to be able to offer compassion to others. So part of your job, if you've chosen this crystal, is to make sure that you are looking for the compassion within the situation. And if you can't find it, then starting by offering compassion to yourself. One of the things that I find really interesting, Archangel Uriel is kind of a counterpart to Archangel Raphael. So many people are familiar with Archangel Raphael. He helps and supports us. He's the healing angel, and he really works on a physical level. He helps on an emotional level too, but his main thing is healing on a physical level. Archangel Uriel helps and supports us with healing on an emotional level. So what Raphael is to the physical, Uriel is to the emotional. And I look at all of the crystals that we've chosen, all of them have to do with heart healing this evening. And so I sense that that's a bigger theme that many of us have and that we're going through, that there's opportunity for healing on that heart level. And the emerald crystal that you chose with this card this evening is all about self-acceptance and self-love. I love giving emerald crystals to people who are learning to love themselves. It's an amazing stone for teenagers in particular, because it's a time when we tend to really struggle with self-love and self-identity and who we are and how do we fit into the world. And emerald is definitely a crystal that helps and supports us with that as well. Awesome. So we have come to the end of the crystals for the evening. Let's take a look and see. Oh my gosh, you guys, so many people have come on since I went off. Just a sec. Let me see. All right. So hello to Elizabeth. Mike, that's so sweet. Lots of love to you too. And hello to Becky. Thanks for joining us. It's always so good to see you. Okay, so we've got, pardon me, we've got Ange here. Hey doll, I hope you're feeling better. Just wondering what you see for my relationship. We're going well, but it's getting tough due to opposite schedules and individual life stuff. With us still being newish, I'm worried about fizzling out. What do you see us working, do you see us working through? Yeah, I do. So the first thing that's popping up for me is I'm seeing not fighting against the opposite schedules, because, often we have opposing schedules, and one or both of us are like, well, I can make a little time here, but it's not really enough, or I can make a little time here. I'm not seeing you guys really doing that. I'm seeing you focusing more on like talking and connecting when you can, but waiting for schedules to come into a better and easier balance. The feeling that I have is that both of you have a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And it feels like adding relationship and partnership into that kind of confuses it a little bit. So this feels like this is kind of one of those um, temporary breaks that just provides a little bit of help and support to each of you. So what I would say is, don't try to push and force connecting with each other. Focus more on yourselves for right now. It does feel like there's an opening that's coming up as we move into like the first or second week in July, maybe a little bit later into July, but like I'm not seeing much more beyond that where there's a lot of conflict in your schedules. So see this as the time that you have to do your thing, to deal with your stuff. He's got his stuff that he's dealing with and he's focusing on. And that feels like that's really where each of you are at the moment. But it does feel like there's enough connection here to bring the two of you back together. So don't stress about it. Really follow your energy with it. And it feels like there's actually a lot of acceptance here in this, in not pushing and not forcing right now. Okay, we're just going to ask, what messages does Anne need about relationship? So we've got passion. Excuse me. We've got passion with Archangel Haniel. Her message is trust and follow your renewed passion in your love life and career. Part of what I'm feeling is that it feels like there's actually almost like a pause on passion, because again, like there's a lot of stuff that's coming up. Don't try to push and force the passion right now either. Just allow it to be, allow it to do its thing. Archangel Haniel works with the energy of the moon. We've got a full moon that's coming up. I think it's next Tuesday, so a week from yesterday. And that's a really great time to let go of anything that's holding you back, holding you down. So you're still in a bit of a time of manifestation right now, but we're starting to move into that energy of releasing. One of the things we haven't talked too much about, but that is still really important when it comes to working and manifesting with the moon, is sometimes we put a lot of energy into manifesting and creating something, and we come up to the full moon cycle. So we do the manifestation and the creation with the new moon, and then we come up to the full moon and like nothing's happening, and maybe it's not feeling as positive or jivey as it was before. This is our opportunity to take a look at what we've been focusing on and what we've been working on and say, hey, like there are parts of this that aren't working. There are parts of this that feel like work. And when it comes to manifestation, like, yes, you are going to be active in it, but it's not something that you should have to push at either. And so the opportunity that comes up with the full moon is to recognize the parts that aren't working so that you can release those, so you can clear them out, so that when it comes up time for new manifestations, that you have more energy that you can devote to the parts and the aspects of it that are working, and maybe you bring something else in. So it's kind of a roundabout way of saying, really don't push and force things right now. It feels like there is lots of opportunity that's still coming. Focus on the things that are right in front of you and trust that the rest is going to come about. It's always a pleasure connecting with you, Ange. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love, and support your way. Awesome. Guy, hello. Thanks for joining us. And Tanya, hi. It's been so long since I've seen you. Thanks for popping on tonight. Marissa, hello. It's wonderful to see you. So Marissa's asking for advice on the romantic connection that she's in right now. Okay, let's take a look and see what we have. Yeah, so the sense that I have is that things are coming together a little bit closer, but I feel like we're kind of walking around something. So it's almost like an elephant in the room, something that hasn't been addressed, something that you're needing to talk about. And it feels like there's also a bit of a need to clear the air a little bit too, which is an interesting term and phrase to use, because usually it means that harsh words have been spoken or lots of misunderstanding. And I don't see it being that. It feels like there's just something kind of sitting underneath the surface that isn't quite sitting right. You just need to clear the air. And then as soon as you do that, everything becomes really easy. And it's like you're back in the flow of relationship. There's new sync that's happening. And sync is actually the word that I want to use, because um, it's almost like you've been out of sync. I borrowed my dad's car this evening for a really random, silly reason. And I noticed that his car had kind of a rough idle to it. Like usually it's an incredibly smooth car. He needs to have it looked at, but this felt kind of rough. It was a rough idle. The car still works, it still drove, it was still safe to use it, but it was just this underlying roughness that isn't usually there. That's how I would describe what I'm feeling. You can still drive it, it's still working, everything is still good, but there's just this underlying roughness that's there. But otherwise, it feels like you guys are on similar paths, similar page, and I'm seeing some opportunities that are coming up for you. And I've got actually a fair amount of excitement that's coming up too. I want to talk about like projects that you're working on together, possibly going away together and travel. Like it feels like there's a lot that's coming up as we move into the next several months. So be open to new opportunities there. All right. So I've had a whole pile of cards fall out at me, but this is the one that stuck. So the card that we chose from the Mermaids and Dolphins Oracle card deck is the friendship card. Make a date for a play day with one or more friends. So this comes through for a couple of different reasons. One, it could be that part of what you're needing to do right now is to almost take like a small little break, not like a break, not a Ross and Rachel break, but just like a little bit of a step back and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out with my girlfriends tonight. You go out with your guy friends, do whatever. And then when you come back, you have a better connection together. But also what I see with this card is the importance of the two of you being friends. So making sure that you're connecting on that friend level as well as that partnership level too. But there is definitely lots of opportunity for the two of you to be connecting. It is still feeling like it's a good relationship overall. And I am seeing a lot of growth and opportunity. There's just something that needs to be cleared out first. Marissa, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. All right, Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Thanks for joining us. Ashley's wondering, pardon me, what do we see coming up for love life? It's been a long time being single, focusing on my kiddos, healing from a toxic relationship. I'm starting to feel a little more open to the possibilities. Just wondering if there's anything coming up. Okay, awesome. Let's take a look and see what we have. Yeah. So first of all, when I ask about relationship, I am seeing you being open, but I feel like I'm kind of dipping my toe in the pool. You know, when you dip your toe in just to test the temperature and then you pull it out really quickly again? That's kind of what I'm seeing coming up with you and around you. Hold on, I'm just going to grab a cough drop. So that's what I'm seeing coming up around you, that you're still kind of testing the waters, deciding how much you're ready to involve yourself again. I am seeing a bit of dating coming up, and it feels like this is part of the natural progression, is starting to become comfortable again with the idea of spending time with somebody in a romantic way or a romantic capacity. I'm almost seeing more of like a friendship date coming up. And so I'm kind of wondering actually if this is a person who also has children and you might be connecting with them through activities that your kids are in. I'm assuming that most kids like sports and activities and stuff are open again. And I'm wanting to encourage you to involve your kids in things, because it feels like this might be another parent, and that there is opportunity to connect on almost more of a family level. And it feels like that feels a little bit safer because there's a little bit of a buffer with both of you having kids and having your kids there. They already know each other, so there's no stranger danger that's involved, and it feels like it's a comfortable relationship. I'm not 100% sure if this is something that becomes a romantic partnership, but It feels like it's a beginning and it's an opening, and it's starting to introduce you to the energy of spending time with a companion from a romantic perspective. In terms of timeline, the summer is feeling like it has a lot of opportunity to be connecting. I'm not 100% sure that you're, as I said, that you're, glomming on to somebody, because it doesn't feel like you're at a place where you're really ready to be open in that way. In fact, even once you do start seeing somebody, it feels like it's going to take some time before you guys even consider amalgamating your households together. And part of that feels like I wouldn't be surprised if this person also has children, and that's something that they're taking into consideration as well. And they're equally wanting to go slowly too. So it feels like it has the potential to be a really good beginning, but just slow and take your time. That there's no rush. We had a jumper. Mhm. Um, And the card that we have for you is the Desiree card. And basically, this card says that the conditions aren't quite right yet. It's not an outright no, but it's just that there's more information is needed, more time and more space is needed. Specifically, it says conditions aren't favorable right now. Wait or look into other options and ask the angels to help guide and comfort you. So, you're definitely on the right track, but don't be in a rush to jump into anything just yet. It feels like you are moving forward with a very slow and methodical progression, and it feels like this is really important, not only for you, but I'm also seeing it being important for your kids too, that you're not rushing into anything too crazy, because in not rushing, it means that you're creating a really solid foundation and creating a lot of stability. And that feels like that's incredibly important to you too. Ashley, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way, and lots of romance angels too, to help you come into the point where you're wanting to be. All right. Let me see. We've got Danielle here. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for joining us. Danielle saying, going through major transition at work with the company selling and being terminated and rehired by the new company. A bit of strategy at play because of union and seniority. Will the full-time offer, if I get it, be too much for me physically and from a work-life balance? Should I accept the first rotation offered to me or take the third option, which is my ideal schedule, but hinges on if someone in front of me declines it? Okay, so there are a lot of options. Okay, let's take a look and see what we have coming up. Yeah, I'm not seeing. I'm definitely feeling the pull back and forth that you're feeling, because not only is it on an emotional level that you're being pulled, but also from that mental point of view as well. It feels like this just keeps running around and around and around in your head, and it almost feels dizzying, because it feels like you're going from one option to the next option to the next option, and then circling back around, and you keep going through the same pathway again. It's kind of like the cartoon. When the character is pacing back and forth so much that they actually wear a hole into the ground where they've been pacing. So it feels like it's a well-worn pathway that you're going through right now with this thought process. And so what I'm wanting to encourage you to do is to step out of the mental, take a step back and breathe and come into your body and see how each of the options feel for you. It feels like, from a feeling point of view, you're gravitating towards the third or the last one that you mentioned, because full-time feels like it's a lot. It feels like it's too much, because what I'm seeing is it's not only full-time, but it's full-time plus. So I don't know if, when you have a full-time position in this company, if there's a certain amount of additional work or overtime that is kind of expected. It's all rolled in, but it feels like it's full-time plus. And that feels like that's more than what you're wanting and what you're needing. It feels like you have different priorities in your life right now. The third option, which is your ideal schedule, but is hinging on whether or not someone in front of you declines it. That does feel like that is going to be an option regardless of whether the person in front of you declines it, because what I'm seeing is that there's another opening that happens. So I'm feeling I'm feeling a bit of trust and faith coming up with this. There might be a little bit of a hurdle that you're jumping over, but I am seeing that position becoming available. I have August coming up as feeling really significant. So there are a couple of ways that August could come into this for me. One, it could be that the decision-making process and like you going into that position, that doesn't start until August, in which case it's straight across and it just happens. But it feels like this might be something that starts a little bit sooner. So potentially you find yourself in a position that is not ideal, but that there is something that opens up as we move into August. So either the person who accepted it says, hey, no, this just actually isn't the thing for me, and I'm moving on to something else. Or what I think is more likely is that another position is being opened, and it feels like because there's enough work or there's enough demand or something, but they are opening an additional position, and it feels like that's the one that you end up getting. And it feels like there's a huge amount of relief that comes with that as well. I feel it coming off of my chest, off of my heart, that there's no more worry. You're not needing to concern yourself with it anymore, and it's just easy. If there is somebody, I'm also seeing you potentially having a conversation with them, just getting a feeling for where they are, because it feels like there's some sort of movement that's coming up for them. And we had a jumper with that. So we have the Brilliant Idea card. This is Archangel Uriel. Yes, your idea is divinely guided. Please take action to bring your idea to fruition. So if there is something that you've been thinking about, particularly if it's in your mind and you're like, oh, I just don't know if this could possibly work, this is a confirmation that yes, that it will. Because it feels like, the way that I want to put it is fancy footwork. Pardon me. And so it feels like there's something that you're kind of dancing around, and that would certainly play into that second option that I'm seeing, where you take something and then this other position opens up as we get further into August. So it does feel like there is opportunity that's there. It's a little outside of the norm, but it feels like it works out really, really well. And I'm seeing you being really happy and really content in it. So Danielle, know that it is safe and it is okay to follow your heart and what you are needing, that I'm seeing that the support will be there for you for the choice and the decision that you're making. It's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Danielle. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. Awesome. Let me just take a look. Carrie, I think that your question got cut off. So I will take a look and see as we go down to see if you had asked something else. Awesome. So Mike is asking, Mike's saying, I'm new to spirits. What's the difference between psychics and mediums? I'm so incredibly glad that you asked. So mediums focus primarily on connecting with deceased loved ones, people who have crossed over to the other side. Sometimes they'll do a little bit of work with, like other things, what's coming up, information that you need to know about different things. But typically, they are connecting with deceased loved ones who are on the other side. When it comes to working with psychics, that's what I do. And we connect on a lot of different levels. I like to work with angels, and we talk about all sorts of different things. I'm not getting messages too much from people's loved ones on the other side. I tend to focus more on what's coming up. What do I need to focus on? And focusing on healing. I'm really wanting to get to this point. How do I get there from here? Or what's coming up for me in work and career? So those are typically the types of things that we deal with on a psychic level. What's coming up, or what's happened in the past that's having an effect and an impact on where I am right now. And all that said, sometimes psychics will do mediumship work and mediums will do psychic work, but typically those would be the delineations. That's a really awesome question. Thanks for asking, Mike. Okay, so And Becky's asking, we would love to know if we should stay in Powell River or explore somewhere else or back to Vancouver Island. Okay, let's take a look, Becky, and see what we've got coming up for you. Pardon me. Okay. I'm seeing a bit of a pause. It feels like part of where you are right now is you're just needing a bit of a pause, and my mind also feels like it's kind of running around a little bit too, and I'm just needing a break, some downtime, just to recuperate, just to balance. It almost reminds me It almost reminds me of like the dizziness and the vertigo that a person could get if they have had a little too much alcohol. I'm not saying that I've ever personally experienced this, but that's oh God, no. I'm going back to a time when I totally did experience this. Your angel is not much of an angel, you guys. No. It feels to me like you've got that really bad vertigo, and it's like I just need the room to stop spitting for a little while so I can find find my groove, find my balance, find because everything feels like I'm trying to push and to push and to push and to push, and everything is saying no, stop, slow down, take care of you, find that balance, and everything will come back into place and into alignment. When I ask about Powell River, Sunshine Coast, I'm going to throw Quadra in there as well, Vancouver Island. I still feel like I'm throwing lots out at lots of different places. So what that says to me is that the place hasn't really manifested itself yet. When I ask about like Powell River, Sunshine Coast, I'm wanting to encourage you to stay there for a little bit. It feels like this is a place where you're really going to be able to recuperate, to find your ground, to find your place, to find your balance. And there might even be a little place that works for you there. It doesn't feel like it's long term, but it feels like it's really good for right now. And it gives you a place to be, a spot to be. As we start to move into September, that's where I have other options really starting to open up. And it feels like that's where we're finding a place where you're really able to connect and to come in. One of the things that I want to say, I was not expecting those words to come out of my mouth with regards to September. It just kind of came out. So I would have said a little bit sooner, but apparently things become really clear as we move into September. So it feels like you've got the summer months where you're kind of possibly doing a bit of travel, a little bit of vacation, but definitely downtime and self-care time and focusing on taking care of you. And I'm hearing role reversal. There might be a bit of role reversal that's happening as well. Let's take a look. We're going to go to the Archangel Oracle card deck, and we're just going to ask, what does Becky need to know about where they are living and where they're meant to be? So we've got the Angel Therapy card, and I love this for you. So first of all, this is Archangel Raphael's card. His message is, give your cares and worries to us angels and allow us to take your burdens. Whenever this card comes up, it's usually because we have been focusing and fighting and trying to make things happen. And angels are just like, you know what? Let us help you. So angels, please help me, is all you need to do. You can say, angels, I can't find a home. I can't find the perfect place for me to be. I'm at my wit's end. I just want a place that is mine, where I can rest my head, where my body can heal, where my soul can be at peace. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I'm holding on to. When I work with my angels, with the angels, like they're not just mine, they're everybody's angels. When I work with the angels, that's what I do. I say, guys, listen, this is where I am. This is what I want. This is what I'm fighting with. And I talk to them as if they are not only my best friend, so I can tell them anything, but also I talk with the expectation that they're able to do something about it. And it gets messy. Like there's a lot of emotion that comes up. There's a lot of fear that comes up. And often, because I'm just getting everything out, things that I didn't realize were contributing to what I was feeling and experiencing comes up. So it's very cathartic. There's a lot of opportunity for healing. So when this card comes up, that's what they're saying to do. They're saying, hey, let us help you. Let us take some of these burdens. Let us hold on to the things that are causing you grief, and let us help you find options and solutions. So call on your angels, ask them for help and support. Tell them exactly what you're dealing with. Tell them exactly what you're worried about, exactly what you're hoping for, and give it all to them. Becky, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love, and support your way. All right, we've got Tamara here. Hi, Tamara. Thanks for joining us. Tamara saying, could you please pull some cards for my career? Will I find another job this year? Can you see what field I'll be in, and or if I will make more money? Thanks. Okay, let's take a look. Excuse me, guys. Let's take a look and see what we have coming up for you, Tamara. Yeah, okay, so there's definitely going to be another job for you. I am seeing you taking some time off during the summer. So again, if I take a step back for a moment here and I look at almost all of the messages that we've had come up this evening, it is don't push, don't push, don't push, don't force, don't try to make things happen, because it's just like quicksand. You get yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And Tamara, when I ask for you, that's the same message that's coming up. Don't try to push, don't try to force, just allow yourself to flow, and to put the leads out there. So again, take some time off over the next couple of months. It feels like you might be doing a couple of little things where you pick up some work, you pick up some money, but it doesn't feel like there's a big career push that's happening. When it comes to next year, or pardon me, September, where are we going? I do have youth coming up, but I also have stage, and I have some sort of acting or something similar, and speaking. Yeah, I'm seeing you being out front and center, speaking, sharing, inspiring. They're also showing me like typing like this. So, I mean, in front of like a laptop or something along those lines. So I'm kind of wondering if there's some sort of writing and or blogging that is happening that's going with it. But it feels like there is promotion of something that is happening, that's going on. I do have youth coming up to the forefront as well. So I'm wondering if there is something that you're doing where you're creating sway, where you are helping and supporting youth. It does feel like you're working for somebody. So it's not something that you're necessarily creating on your own, but it feels like there is a paycheck that's coming in. I'm not seeing that it's necessarily significantly larger than what you're currently making. I'm not getting anything really clear around salary, but it does feel like there is something that you're doing. And I do see you going out and looking for it, but it feels like it just drops into your lap. So network this summer with people who are doing really interesting things. This feels like it's really interesting and inspiring work. And again, I've got kids coming up really strongly. So I would say if you're not working directly with them, you're definitely working for them. Okay, so let's see. Whoops, I'm kind of surprised that we picked up these guys. I thought that we would have chosen the mermaids and dolphins, but what do I know? Okay, so the card that we got for you this evening is Layla. This is all about contemplation. Spend time alone in nature, meditating about your desires and intentions. Ask the angels to help you gain a positive perspective. So what we just spoke about with Becky for calling on angels, asking for help and support, we're kind of seeing for you too. But the encouragement is really to make sure that you're getting outside, you're connecting with the energy of the earth, the energy of water in particular. And it feels like there's some manifestation work that you're doing with that too. So what I would focus on is seeing yourself seeing yourself getting up every day, going and doing work that you absolutely love. Maybe there are things that you're wanting to fill in, like the types of people that you're working with, how you feel at the end of the day, possibly like the area that you're working in, or different tasks that you're doing throughout the day. I'm also seeing you going in and checking your bank balance after you've received a paycheck and being like, oh yeah, that's awesome. That was a really good number. That was what I was really hoping for. And then basically this or something better. This is kind of the foundation of what I'm wanting to create, but this or something even better than I can imagine. Tamara, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. Awesome. Okay, so we've got Corinne here. Hi, Corinne. Thanks for joining us. How's my father feel about his estate settlement by my brother? Okay, well, let's take a look and see. So he's showing me some flip-flop back and forth. There are aspects that he likes and that he appreciates, but there's something, and he's showing me like in a big red circle, there's something here that was not what he wanted or not what he intended, or it wasn't carried out with the intention that he had. So it's kind of making me wonder if your brother was able to get in like a backdoor kind of thing, but it doesn't feel like it's completely what your father's intention was when he wrote out his settlements and set his intentions. It wasn't exactly what he wanted. And again, I see this big red circle. So I'm not sure if this is something that you're aware of. It does feel like if you chose, that there would be grounds to dispute it if you wanted to, because he's showing me that there is something very plainly there, and it may have to do with the interpretation. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any sort of legal background to be able to understand what it is that I'm seeing. But it feels like it could be, if you are wanting to contest something, that it could be worthwhile taking the will or any sort of papers to a lawyer or somebody who would know their way around the system, because it feels like there is something that is there that was misinterpreted intentionally in a way that benefited somebody other than who your father would have chosen for it to benefit. Let's take a look. We're going to go to I'm going to assume that you meant the Archangel deck, and we're just going to ask what messages are coming up, pardon me, for Corrine about this settlement. So the card that we have here is Courage. This is Archangel Ariel, and her message is be courageous and stand up for your beliefs. So if you believe that that this has been carried out unfavorably or not the way that your father would have chosen, Archangel Ariel is coming up and saying, hey, like, let's take this on. Let's do this. Let's take care of this. Archangel Ariel has a very similar intensity in her energy to Archangel Michael. She is the girlfriend who will have your back in a fight. I mean, not that angels fight, but that's kind of her energy that she brings forward. It's like, oh no, girlfriend. And she's like, I've got your back. We've got something to take care of. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's get this under control. And she also helps and supports us in making sure that we are being treated fairly. So call on Archangel Ariel, ask her for help and support, but it does feel like there's something that's worth exploring here. And again, I'm seeing a great big huge red circle around a whole pile of writing that is making me think that it needs to be reviewed to make sure that it has been properly executed. Karina, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. Awesome. Pardon me. Awesome. Elizabeth, I hope that you got the message from the angels there with your card. That's awesome. Okay. Hi. We have Aunt Carmel here. Hi. Thanks for joining us. My question is, I'm getting issues with negative energy from neighbors and trying to tune that out. Feel untrustworthy vibes. Does my intuition seem real, or am I overthinking? Okay. Well, let's take a look and see what we've got coming up. I'm definitely feeling the need to protect your energy and your space. And it feels like there's something funky that's going on, but I'm actually wanting to clear the property itself. So whether it's, like a suite or an apartment that you have, or if you have like land around it, I'm wanting to go through and clear all of the energy and the space around it. There are lots of different ways that you can do that. Lots of people who also help and support with clearing energy. I know our First Nations people here do a lot of work with the land, and they can help to clear land as well. It might be worth getting in touch with the local First Nation to see if they have any elders who do that kind of work. It would be paid work, I would hope, that you would be able to offer compensation. That is one of the ways. Another way that you can claim the space and the energy as your own is by connecting with the energy of the earth. So this is a form of energy healing that we're talking about. Connecting with the energy of the earth, seeing, feeling, knowing that energy moving up through your body, through your feet, all the way coming up into your heart, and connecting with the energy of God, source, universe, coming down through the crown chakra, through your head, down into the heart, and then all of that energy mixing, coming up through your shoulders, out, down through your arms, and into your hands, out through your hands. And as you breathe, seeing and feeling that energy of the earth and the energy of source coming through your body, and then claiming that energy in that space. So for example, if you were doing this in a home space, like in a physical room, then I would go into the corner, the property corner. I put one hand on each wall so that my nose was facing into the corner. And I would see and feel as my energy went, and that energy went through the entire house, through all of the walls, through all of the suds, creating a boundary and a buffer and a barrier that helps to support you maintaining your own energy. And it helps to reflect any energy that may be coming from sources that are not friendly, that are not helpful. What I like to do is I like to see that energy being transmuted. So if anything is negative that's coming towards you, then it comes up against this boundary, this barrier, this protection that you've created, and it can't come through. Only love can come through. And instead it bounces off, but it is changed into love, support, and healing. Because if we send it back as the ugliness that it is, then all we're doing is perpetuating more ugliness. And that doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve the people who are hurting in pain or for whatever reason they've sent it out. And it doesn't support you either, because you've just sent them back more of what they just sent you. So they've got even more to send back at you the next time. That doesn't make sense. So transmute it, ask that it be transmuted into love, that it goes back to wherever it came from, so that it doesn't harm them and it doesn't harm you. And with the hope and the intention that there can be healing that's there. But it feels like what you are doing is you are protecting first the space that you inhabit. You're protecting your own energy. And I'm seeing you working with angels and other beings of light, ascended masters, whoever you feel drawn to work with, and ask them to help and support you in keeping your energy high and clear, and anything negative be transmuted and sent back to wherever it came from. In terms of your neighbors, there's something funny that's going on there. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I am feeling the need to protect you and to protect your energy. I'm having a hard time figuring out if this is something that's being sent off intentionally. It doesn't feel like it is. It feels like they're caught in their own drama or their own trauma, and that's what they're kind of living in, and they're sending it out because that's just where they are. So I'm not seeing it as being intentional towards you, though if you engage them enough, then eventually they do start to send it back, and then it gets messy. If there is an option to move, it feels like that could be helpful, but I also understand, at least here, housing options are fairly limited, and that might be the case where you are as well. And if it is the case, then what I would do is not intentionally provoke them. and to do some of the energy work that we've talked about, with clearing the space, with putting up boundaries and protection, and calling on angels or guides or whoever you enjoy working with, whoever resonates with you, and asking them to keep your energy and vibration high. Let's see, where are we going? I'm feeling Archangel Metatron coming up. Oh, cool. So no, we've actually got Archangel Sandalphon, and his message is victory. Your prayers have been heard and answered. Have faith. So I don't know if you've been praying for help and support in the situation, or for other options to come up, either for you or for them. But what this card says is that, yes, you have been heard, and angels, God, source, universe, they're working behind the scenes to come up with an answer and opportunities. So keep your eyes out for opportunity for shift and change, either for you or, as I said, possibly for them as well. And Carmel, it was such a pleasure connecting with you. I'm so glad that you joined us this evening. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way, and lots of angelic help and support with your neighbors as well. Thanks for joining us. Awesome. Let me see. So, oops. I just lost my spot. Where was I? I think I had Jerry. Let me see. Awesome. Okay, so yes, I had a couple of people putting in like their crystals that they were looking at. That's awesome. So I've got Jerry here. Jerry saying, is the path that I'm on getting a bit easier? Will I find stinging nettle plants for my working solve? Cool. I've never had that question before. So let me just ask specifically about that. Yep, I do see you finding some stinging nettle, and actually it feels like it's a great big huge patch of stinging nettle. So I am seeing you being successful in that. I don't know. It's almost like you have to move something in order to find it, but then I'm seeing like a great, big, huge patch of it. I'm feeling a lot of excitement coming up. And it feels like this is providing, are you, yeah, with a solve. I was going to say, it feels like there's a solve that you're using and creating with it. And that's exciting. So yes, I do see you finding that. And then in terms of your path getting easier and the work that you're doing, I'm still seeing you climbing uphill. So it feels like you are definitely working. It's not easy, but it feels like it's becoming easier. But the easier feels like that's coming from the way that you're seeing it. And there's something that's coming up. It feels like it's a shift between I have to do this and I get to do this. So instead of say approaching it and saying, I have to go and do the dishes now, it focuses more on, wow, I get to go and do the dishes now, because in going and doing the dishes, it means, one, that I have a home and that I have a kitchen that I've prepared food in. I've been able to eat food, and I have the supplies that I need to clean, to make sure that my home is healthy and safe and clean. And so I get to do the dishes instead of, here's a chore that I have to do. So it feels like it's not so much that the work itself is becoming easier, but that the mindset that you're taking to it shifts, and it becomes easier because it's enjoyable, because you're seeing the opportunity in the experience that you're having. And from that perspective, it starts to get easier because there's more enjoyment. And the way that I'm seeing it is as if it was a black and white pencil sketch. And then somebody said, but Jerry, we have these pencil crayons over here. What if we just added some color to it? And it completely changes the experience of the picture that's in front of you. So the work doesn't feel like it's changing, but the experience of it feels like it's changing. And it feels like there's a greater depth of joy in what you're doing. And also then it feels like it does start to get easier, because there's not as much heaviness that is going with the work that you're doing. We're going to go to the big guys for you, Jerry, and we're just going to ask, what does Jerry need to know about the work that she's doing right now? And the card that we have here is Archangel Raphael. I've noticed that Raphael has come up for us several times this evening, you guys. So for everybody who is watching, know that there's lots of help and support here. So Archangel Raphael has come up. His message is healthy lifestyle, eat a healthful diet, get adequate sleep, and exercise regularly for optimal health. You know, when this card comes up, it's definitely encouragement, because usually we've been thinking about making changes when this card comes up, and this card is coming through as a confirmation of either the things that we're thinking about changing, and it's like, yep, full steam ahead on what you've been thinking about doing or what you've been planning on doing, or it's coming up as a celebration of the changes that you've already made. And it's kind of like a high five saying, hey, that's awesome. You're doing it. Keep it up. Keep on track. You're on the right track. You're doing what you need to be doing. The last thing that I'm hearing for you, Jerry, has to do with water. I am seeing you drinking a fair amount of water. So I don't think it has to do with the amount that you're drinking, but it feels like it might have to do with the quality of the water that you're drinking. I don't know if you have like a fresh source of water that you're drinking from. I'm having a hard time telling, but it might just need to be filtered. But just making sure that the water, that you are drinking enough water, and that it is as clean and pure. I mean, you don't actually want to drink straight H2O. I don't think that that's actually beneficial for us. I think it actually needs to have different minerals and stuff in it. But I am seeing some sort of filtration on the water system that you have that feels like it makes all the difference in the world. Jerry, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending big hugs, lots of love and support your way. You guys, I would usually go a little bit longer. I know that I didn't get close to everybody who hopped on this evening, but my throat is saying that it is done, and and, and I'm going to wrap up for this evening. I am so incredibly grateful to each and every one of you for joining me this evening. It is always a pleasure for me to connect with you in this way. I'm grateful for the time that you've taken out of your day to be here with me. If I didn't get to your question this evening, you can go back and watch the replay. We did pull the cards. So please feel free to choose a crystal and to choose a card that way. I plan to be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, which is 10 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube and on my Facebook page, and also the Universal Connections page. And Bobby and I will be back on Sunday with some more fun. On Sunday afternoon, which is 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, if you'd like to book your own personal reading with me, I'd love to connect with you. You can do so on my website, bookingwitherin.com. And I hope you have a fabulous week and look forward to seeing you on Sunday and Tuesday. Take care, everyone.